Once again, to the second line translation guide from the Air Force Specialized Hospital. Now our team is Professor Dr. Muhammad Hasni, me, Dr. Ahmed, and Dr. Ahmed Shahana, and Ataya, and Aya. We are here with the first introduce our case. Slide please. New patient, 63 years old, ex-smoker, hypertensive, ischemic heart, not diabetic. Next. Had an aortic dissection 1 year ago, resulted in acute chest pain. Here is the CT angio. You can find a small dissection with a blood in the descending aorta above the celiac artery. Next. So our plan today is to cover this with the variant graph from the front. Now we take a series of images to confirm our position.
What about the sizing or what's the measurements? What's your measurements for the?
We have, we will show you the measurements originally taken by CT, but we first can show you an IRIS measurement. But first, we in this position we have to take around first 3 clicks, and then we take the measurement. We want to see the exact origin of the celiac artery. Now we can see it flow. Okay. One here. You take another one here. You want to have the evidence with the iris?
Yes, we can see the ulcer now or the penetrating ulcer if you want to talk.
دكتور شريف معك كريم السقا. احنا لا احنا بس we're trying to find the origin بتاع السيلياك على الصورة اللي احنا شايفينها هنا.
Yes,
now we have it. Yes, now we have it.
Okay, I can see you with the iris, the origin of the celiac, and you can compare it with the pigment position, right? You see how far from the back? The pigment is nearly 2 centimeters above the penetrating ulcer. And we will draw the iris now, starting to drawing the iris. And you see the origin on the screen of the celiac artery. We believe it's about 8 centimeters below the leg.
Will you please rotate the IVUS catheter so that we can see? Yeah, is this the celiac trunk that we see now at? Is this the celiac trunk?
Yes, it is.
This is the celiac trunk that we see at 7 o'clock, right? لا 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 لا، رجع الكاميرا تاني، لا رجع الكاميرا زي ما كانت. رجع الكاميرا زي ما كانت لو سمحت. الصورة بتاعت الايفاس كده مش واضحة، ممكن نرجع الكاميرا تاني زي ما كانت؟ Yes, we can see the renals. Is there Hello. If your IVUS is still inside, is there any chance that we could see how this ulcer will look by the IVUS? If you pass the IVUS catheter just next to the region of the ulcer, can we just see? Are you opposite the ulcer right now? Yes, you are opposite the ulcer, yes.
So we have a landmark here, the wire.
Yes, we can see the wire by the IVUS as well.
Yeah. So we need to do the wire. And here, do you see it working? Can you see it?
At 4, yes, at 4 o'clock, yes. You are rotating the IVUS catheter now?
Yeah.
So you are going to put a mark on your screen to mark the origin of the celiac artery to avoid covering it with your stent graft, right? What about the size or the measurements of your stent graft? Valiant. Tapered graft, 3430.
دكتور شريف ال length of the graft قد ايه؟ 150. Okay.
So it's 34, 30, 150.
Does anybody expect any incidence of spinal cord ischemia with a 15 centimeter graft, coverage of 15 centimeter? Yeah, that's a question to the audience.
Yes, the question is for the audience now.
Does anybody expect after a 15 centimeter graft, any incidence of spinal ischemia? Yes.
Probably we cannot expect this ischemia because of the length. It is 15, but its site is the question.
Yes.
Because it is in the lower thoracic part,
Yeah.
and this patient has an open heart surgery before.
Exactly.
So we can expect with a little percentage.
Yes, yeah, you usually don't expect with this size to have any kind of spinal ischemia, but as we just heard, we start fearing spinal ischemia once we start reaching the length of about 25 centimeters of coverage. But as we just heard, برضو the problem here is very low down. Probably احنا will be covering T1 and T12 and L1, which is a very important segment for spinal cord ischemia. Do any of you do any lumbar drains before we start? Would you put a lumbar drain in this patient? Dr. Ayman? In this patient, you will put a lumbar drain. Why don't you just explain a bit?
Thank you very much. This patient had a history of an open heart surgery before. I know he might use even the Lima with some tension on subclavian artery. That's one thing. The other thing is that the area where Dr. Saeed referred to is where the area where advocates would be emerging. And I would do at least single puncture, not a continuous lumbar drain, but I would do a single puncture just to be on safe side.
The other important question, do you think that if you accidentally or intentionally cover the celiac artery, is it the end of the world? Do you think this patient would die? What's the thoughts about it if accidentally you cover the celiac artery? What's your thoughts about it? What's the thoughts about it? What would you do?
If I just covered the celiac artery was covered.
The origin of the celiac artery by accident.
I accidentally doing the procedure. I will cannulate the superior mesenteric artery. Okay, since I'm in, I'll have my injection to see is my circles are okay, the perfusion is okay. I would do nothing else.
Exactly. So it's not the end of the world to cover the celiac artery. The incidence of complication is less than 5%. And as Ayman Samadoni says, if you take an angio, look into the circulation of the SMA, if the pancreatic or duodenal artery is patent, then you're probably safe. Dr. Saeed, عاوز يقول حاجة?
In such cases, if I am going, not for this specific case, because I have a long landing zone below the ulcer, but if I have only just 2 or 3 centimeters above the celiac artery to cover, sometimes I put a wire in the celiac artery just in case to be safe, and trying to land as much as I can at the orifice of the celiac trunk.
شكرا دكتور سعيد. Any other ideas? عندنا هنا اقتراح to pull the pigtail a bit south and take another shot. لا فهي الدكتور شريف هنا بيسأل البلاد بريشر بتاع العيان قد ايه؟ Yes. Okay, this is another thing that we need to talk about. Do you try to control the blood pressure at the time of putting a stent? In my mind, in the descending thoracic aorta, it shouldn't be a problem. However, mainly if we're putting a graft around the arch of the aorta, I'll be quite worried about the blood pressure. I would like a low blood pressure. And the question is, what's the best way to lower the blood pressure? What do you use in your practice? Dr. Saeed, any ideas?
Now you have changed your projection. Would you like to do another angiography before deployment?
As a rule, any deployment near the arch, we should lower the blood pressure maybe at 80 or 70 systolic blood pressure. But you have to have a good anesthesiologist to control this. And
how do you lower the blood pressure? Because there are many ways of lowering the blood
yeah,
pressure.
Yeah, this is the way of, this is the role of, or the job of the anesthesiologist. But usually they give propofol, or they give Tridil, something like that.
Okay, so there's a pharmacological way of lowering the blood pressure, and the other option is overdrive pacing. In some centers, what we use is overdrive pacing.
But do you use overdrive pacing in descending? I think.
No. What I mean in this case, I'm not worried about lowering the blood pressure to a certain extent, but definitely any manipulations around the arch of the aorta, I would very much like to lower the blood pressure.
We keep it the pacing or the rapid pacing for proximal parts.
Definitely.
Sharif, are you waiting for us, or are you proceeding? Okay, now you
you
have
cannot
changed.
wait and proceed at the same time. دكتور شريف ما ينفعش كده. Either you wait or you proceed.
Now as you have changed your projection, so your screen marking is not valid. Another run, yes, that's it. Good. Okay. Yes, very clear now. You are deploying, okay. Deployment started. Okay, we can see that's the deployment of the body completed. We are only, and the top end is also deployed.
Yeah, that looks very good. But any comments from the floor?
No, no, that's good. Proceed.
We have a CSF pressure about 22. What do you think?
22. Yeah, I think the 22 centimeters of water, that's a bit too high. Yeah, I would think that you should run anything between 10 and 20 centimeters of H2O. So definitely I would.
We can wait for 10 minutes and the measurement again, or immediately try to come CSF?
No, what was the pressure before deployment?
In fact, the run is fine. It's
Good.
So we finished our case, the pressure, but we will update you with the CSF pressure. If you have any comment or any questions,
the same. Definitely, I won't depend on one reading. I think we have to have multiple readings. But in general, we try and keep the CSF pressure between 10 and 20. لا دي عندنا دي حضرتك، دي من عندنا، دي مش من هناك. لا 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 مش من اوضه العمليات دي، دي من عندنا احنا. دي من عندنا جايبها معايا.
Okay, now so you have withdrawn your wire and pigtail, and you are starting to your closure of your arteriotomy, right? Okay. Any news about the CSF pressure now?
We have the reading now, so we are good, and I think we are doing fine, nothing to be done,
Good.
and we close our periodically and close our room better.
Good, perfect.
We'll conclude this session. Excellent work. Thank you very much. Any final questions from the floor? Yep. Thank you very much, ya jama'a.
It's a quick question, actually. I would thought if we do an extra puncture and through the other side, maybe a 5 French sheath or something, and put a wire in the celiac, just a simple wire, will save us a lot of radiation exposure and dye. So would you think it's doable? Yes, ultrasound guided, yeah.
Well, كان الدكتور سعيد بيتكلم عن الموضوع ده ان هو عشان to protect the celiac ممكن نسيب واير في السيلياك ارتري هيدينا طبعا لاند مارك ممكن it's a good idea definitely يعني بس برضو يعني any wire in any artery does carry a risk. Okay, so you don't do it unless you have to. But of course, it's a good idea.
In such a case, we have to know first the renal function of the patient, but this particular case, we have wires of the sternal wires.
Yeah.
We can take it as a landmark.
Yeah.
So one projection, we decide the celiac artery and then take a landmark at the upper end of the stent with the sternal wires. So we can depend on this and then deploy
I completely agree. يعني in this specific case, I would never يعني take the extra step of putting another wire in the celiac artery. Maybe in more complicated cases, but it's a very straightforward case. I think just by just one run, you can finish the whole case. I agree with Dr. Said. Any other questions from the floor?
Questions? Okay, so we shall conclude this session and we shall move on to the next session, live in a box, cases presentation. Can I invite the moderator for the next session? Thank you. Thanks for our chairman for this session. Thank you all. Thanks
Thank you.
for the audience. Next session, live in a box. The moderator, Dr. Imad Zakhari. Chairpersons, Dr. Ahmed Gawish, Dr. Ahmed Saad Eddin, Dr. Assam Al-Adi, Dr. Hassan Abdel Ati, Dr. Saeed Abdel Aziz, and Dr. Tamer Fikri. Dr. Ahmed Al-Mahroui.
كمل سكادول عايز
دكتور أحمد المحروقي. And next case, Dr. Muhammad Ali.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. النهارده يعني I will share with you a thoracoabdominal aneurysm case. The patient is a male, 65 years old with classic risk factors. Okay, this is the CT scan preoperative.